welcome a good guest of mine. She's absolutely brilliant. She handles hecklers pretty well. She's got a few mean shots of her own, and her name is very unique. Like, she started off in the San Diego circuit, and I don't want to say it too much because I may get into trouble, but I'll say it anyway. I'm going to say it with a bit of pizzazz. It's Rabiah Coon.
That's correct. Yeah, that's my name. So, yeah, it's lended to one of my favorite jokes that I've written, but that's about it at this point. So,
but there's so much you could do with that, like your name and the opening bit. I mean, that's you've done a lot already, and you're probably going to do a lot more with it. But yeah, it's an interesting stage name that stands out, and I think that's the main thing.
That is, because my first name stands out too, but the last name, people don't know who or what to expect if they don't see my picture ahead of time. So I was actually on a bill one time where I was after this guy, but none of us had met each other. And so I had stepped outside to just kind of clear my head for a minute before going on. And the guy apparently just went off about me. Who is he? First of all, it's always he. Oh, he comes in with a name like this. Hey, da da da. All this stuff. And I didn't hear it because I was outside, and it was probably good because I would actually get pretty jarred by that, I'm sure. And my friends were glad I wasn't in there. And so then I went on, and he kind of heckled me, but I didn't know about the backstory. And so I kind of went with it. And so everyone thought I knew. And my friends were like, oh, wow, you stayed really cool. We're surprised. We were worried that you were going to lose your cool about it. And more I would have been devastated more than yelling at him. And so then after he was like, oh, I'm so sorry about what I said. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. Cause I just thought it was this stupid heckling you did. Meanwhile, I found out his whole set was about my name, so it was pretty crazy. And then when I found out, I just wrote to him on Insta, we connected on there, and I said, hey man, my only advice is never waste your stage time on someone else's name. You took your time to focus on me. So everyone was ready for me to come up. I don't know. It's kind of
he beat you up, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. It was weird. But then he kept apologizing on Instagram, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know what you said still, and I'm fine. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Just don't do it again, I guess, if you feel that bad.
You always came, I mean, I've only seen you on the Heckler show, but you come across as quite a chill person.
Yeah, I'd say that's I am overall, I'd say, but I also have a lot of anxiety. And so doesn't show on stage necessarily, but as a person, I deal with anxiety a lot. But yeah, overall, as far as other people, I try to be. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I think if someone finds out they hurt your feelings after saying something, or they find out maybe they were being mean, if they think about it, it's fine and just move on.
That's a good way to deal with it. I think there's quite a few people that would think of it, oh, there's such an arse or this and that, or some people get really, and they'll inflame the situation.
I have. I'm also, I'd say probably a good 10 years older than most of the comics I see right now, if not older. And so I think I've learned that in my life anyway, I've just learned that, some of that stuff's not worth it, really. I mean, it's kind of like if you spend your whole time focused on what someone else is doing, then you're giving them all your energy. What do you have left for yourself and your own comedy in that case, or own writing, or your own family, or whatever, if you're giving it all to someone who you're apparently mad at?
Yes. Yeah. It's one of those things. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to focus on your ego and all that. And it's it's putting it in the wrong place.
Yeah, it is. It's like, oh man, now they've got all of it and they've got the best part of me. And that's not, I'd rather keep that or give it to someone who deserves it. But yeah, but there's some, I mean, it's with comedy wise, I mean, it's hard. I only started a year and a half ago, and there was one person in San Diego who just hated me from the start. And he would say I wasn't a woman. He'd say, oh, all the girls, first of all, don't call me a girl. I'm 41, so I'm not really a girl at this point, but all the girls went ahead of me except for, Rabiah. I mean, she would have to dress differently to be called a woman. And I'm like, okay, thanks, bruh. really? Like, that's what you're going for me now is my clothes? All right. Like, obviously you don't have a problem with my comedy. You just have a problem with how I dress and look. And then he would do some fat shaming stuff. And it was like, come on, dude. Like, you're bald. You want to go there? You know? It's like, what's the point? So I didn't handle that guy well because I went off on him on stage one day. I was hosting an open mic and I just like ripped into him. But then I felt super like exposed myself, right? And I just felt awful. And so that was again where, okay, what are you doing? What, like, let him dig his own grave on stuff, you know, and let me just handle me. So I haven't always been
because you've learned from that. Yes, that's well, I think the first thing when he does that, you're thinking like, what's happened to you? What's your issue?
Yeah.
What happened? Do you want a psychologist?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what exactly is going on, you know, with you that this is what you're doing? So yeah, it's weird. He was an angry dude though. I mean, so can't really do much about those. Like, we're not on stage maybe to be other people's therapists, you know?
Yeah.
Like maybe we're all on stage doing something we might do in therapy, but we're not there to be a therapist for other people. So it's like, yeah, just if these guys act like this, just get out, you know? The hecklers thing is funny because the first time I did it with you guys, I felt like, oh, I'm being too mean. Because I can be mean. I mean, that, and people don't expect it because I'm not a mean person, but I can. But the second one was more fun because I was like, okay, I get what this is, you know?
Yeah. You were pretty good at it. I liked some of your insults and like, yeah, you enjoy it in the end. You seem to have warmed up to the show.
Yeah, now it's fine. Now I'm good with it. I had to learn how to take it myself. That's the thing. I'm not good at taking it myself, but
I like the heckler thing for one thing, in that I'm not very good at dealing with hecklers, and it's good for toughening up your skin. Because if comedians give you like the harshest insult ever on that sort of platform,
yeah,
it'll be a lot easier to deal with it if someone's being mean to you in life or like in like a night. It'll be a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you seem pretty relaxed though. I mean, overall, right? So
some of it's hurt though. Some of it's definitely hurt a bit. Some of the heckles have definitely hurt a little bit. Like it takes me about maybe a few hours to ease off from it. But some of it does hurt. But it's good. You need it because you have to have a thick skin in a lot of things, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like the hecklers and that. And I'm probably going to do it when it went live, when things get back to normal. I do enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and it makes you better. It's good for you.
Yeah,
like handling tough crowds and all that. And it's, if you can handle that, then you can handle a lot of other tough situations.
I agree. I mean, yeah, because you're not going to be in a controlled environment most of the time. And so it even helps if you hear silence. It helps if you know, when you're expecting a big laugh, because that's pretty jarring. Or if you hear someone say something, how do you engage? Actually, that show, I don't know if you were recording at the very front. We were talking about, like, Russell Hicks did a show at Camden Comedy, but he got heckled. But this woman was heckling everybody. She was at that show. I think Louis Schaefer went up. She heckled him, and he handled it really well. He just kind of just kept doing his thing, and he would go to her, but then he would do his thing, got through his set. There was another guy from the U.S. there. He got a little more jarred by it because she wouldn't stop. And then Russell just kind of was like, okay, what's going on, lady? You know, kind of thing, but in a good way. I mean, he is so good at improvising and is so good at off the cuff that he was able to handle her. But it was like at some point that lady had taken over the entire show, right? So there's like however many people in the audience, and this one woman is just taking over the show. But they all had to handle her, and it was pretty interesting to watch because they still were somehow like pulling it back to them, and so people were laughing at what they were saying, but she was taking a lot of energy, which hecklers I think do in the real world. They try to just pull focus, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, I think also with the heckling thing, I get heckled quite a lot more so than other comics. A fair amount, a little bit here, and normally audiences don't heckle, but I tend to get heckled more than a lot of other acts. Mm-hmm. So I have to prepare for that. Some of it's fun, I don't mind, but it's I think with the heckling thing, and as you said when you said about that guy saying all the abuse, I think people perceive people in a certain way, and they think, "Oh, I can do this or I can do that," and it's all interesting. It toughens your skin up, but yeah, as you said, you found it interesting because it's a bit like a puzzle, or a bit like watching a gladiator between.
Yeah, you don't know if they're gonna stop either. So, at some point, hopefully they do.
Well, I saw a video with what's her face, Laura Lex. She's very sharp and good at dealing with hecklers, and she put them down. But the thing is, they still went on a bit, so you'd have to remove them. And I think, I mean, it's okay having a heckler if they get involved here and there, but if they still don't shut up because they're a bit mad or they're drunk, then you have to remove them, don't you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, at some point, it's just like people are paying to see a show. They're not paying to see audience members. It's almost like at a concert too, like I just kind of tend to focus forward on at a concert, but sometimes people are just, too much. And I was at a show in California, that's where I'm from, and these people were behind me just talking, and it's pretty, I would say there are certain cities where crowds are generally good and they don't do that. And then there are cities where they aren't. And like San Diego, I think people just like to talk. They like to go to a concert and just talk. And it's like, then, you could just turn on Spotify and talk and not disrupt people and whatever. And so these people wouldn't shut up. I was fine, like, hey, can you guys be quiet? I mean, I couldn't hear. It was that loud. And then they're like, oh, sure, yeah. Like, it's like, well, hold on. I paid, $40 for this ticket. I didn't pay to listen to your conversation, which is actually like, makes me so glad that I guess just kind of have my worldview, because it was just stupid listening to it. But then also it's like, why am I wrong for asking you to be quiet now? If I was at your home asking you to be quiet, that's different. And so I finally, like, a person came and got them, but it was just like, I've never done something like that before, but it was just too much. And I feel like the heckler thing, it's same. It's like, at some point you're disrupting the show. Like maybe you're funny once, or like the people who yell, I love you, and it's like, okay, fine. The artist says they love you back. That's the end of the conversation. It's not like they're going to hang out with you now while they're in the middle of the show. It's weird, but I don't think people understand that the performers are working. Even like, I'm an amateur, but I'm still working when I'm up there. And I'm still working right before and probably right after, it's not like I'm not, but you wouldn't go into an office and start doing random stuff to people.
No, you wouldn't. Well, one thing I do want to ask that's interesting, because you started doing comedy in San Diego. Have you noticed like a key difference in terms of comedy styles between San Diego and the UK?
Well, and I was only in a couple cities, and so San Diego is mostly my scene. And then here, I was only here a month before lockdown, so I was only in clubs for that long, right? Like I would just go to open mics and stuff. Like I went to you guys, in Hammersmith, right? Or something. But basically I would say I saw the similar archetypes, a little bit. And then, but I also saw some differences too. The archetypes I saw were definitely like the guys who are trying to be provocative by, saying they're, saying jokes about either gay, rape, these things that like, oh, I can't talk about this anymore. And then they say it anyway. And it's like, okay, cool, I guess, like, great. The women who want to talk about, just blowjobs, basically, like, oh, okay, well, that's original also. So there are those kind of things, like, and then I saw a lot of people who are just kind of cool and telling good stories and stuff. And other people are cool too. It's just like, is that at some point you're going to run out of dick jokes from either men or women, right? And then you're going to have to tell another joke. But those same archetypes are in San Diego, right? Those people. And then, I didn't really see much of those open mics. I think here too, there's this awareness around mental health that's interesting, that I didn't see in San Diego. I would see like here, like autistic comics, like comics would say I'm autistic, and they would kind of like be kind of using that in their comedy, versus in San Diego, I would see people saying, oh, I have an autistic brother, and making fun of autism. And it's like a lot of punching down that I saw, versus Um, Here I don't see as much punching down, which is interesting because
Yeah.
I do feel like it's not. I don't know which is more woke, so to speak. That's the weird thing. I feel like there's a lot that's not said here. Just like I think a lot of things like racism and stuff is handled in a different way here, just generally than in the U.S. Not necessarily worse because look at what's going on in the U.S. But so I just thought it was interesting, like those differences too. You know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what about in terms of like one thing that does tend to happen is there's quite a few UK comics that a lot of the times they write a lot of one-liners
Mm-hmm.
or they do things that are similar to American comics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's the wacky ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one liner thing, I mean, that's, I have a good friend who does that in the States, or like a lot of puns or wordplay. And I did see that here. And I think that's another archetype, I guess. Like, and they're not negative archetypes. I mean, I'm definitely like a storyteller one, you know, that's like mine. But yeah, so I did see that. And I do find it entertaining. I mean, it's definitely a style that's, I think it's not necessarily easy to do. I think it's kind of hard to just write one line and that line has to hit. Like my jokes, I have 10 lines and at least, you know, hopefully the 7 and 8 hit or whatever, but you have like a more opportunity. I think if you just write one liner and it doesn't work, then your whole joke's gone. That's hard. Probably, but yeah, they do that. And then yeah, wacky, just doing random, usually with a guitar. Some reason there's always like a guitar involved or yelling or, you know, weird, yeah, stuff like that someone will say is a genius and the rest of the people are like, what's going on? But everyone's trying.
So in regards to, I mean, in America, you would tell a lot of stories. You say, "Oh, I walked in a park," but you a lot of the times, like, I hear of Mike Shea, he used his like haikus to try and get it to rhyme, and then he sort of writes little lines here and there. And when I try writing like that, it tends to always get back to a one-liner either way.
You always have a punchline, right? So then it's like kind of what you're doing around it in a way, I guess. You know, like at some point there's a punchline and that's going to be a line. But I guess it's how much you play before and after it. I don't know. I mean, I just took a writing class since I've been here and it was really informative and taught me a lot more about joke structure. And I'm taking a workshop right now too. I mean, that's one thing I've been doing here that I wouldn't have done at home probably without COVID. You know, I have nowhere to go, whatever. But I think, yeah, like understanding joke structure and then how you can do it. I mean, not everyone can do every joke structure. They're not writing that way. It's like not every writer can be a fiction and a nonfiction writer. They don't, okay. Your brain, I guess, doesn't do that. So yeah, I know what you mean though. Like if you have a style, it's like good to expand and try to play with other ones, but sometimes.
Yeah, I just keep getting back to it.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the way it is. No.
Yeah. But if you're having fun, then that's important to me. I don't know. You're doing comedy full time or what?
No. I'm still sort of. I went to clown school for a while as well.
Okay.
So, and I had to come back here because of the COVID.
Yeah. So that had to be interesting too, actually. But.
Well, it's more based on audience interaction and your relationship and like performance of on the stage rather than what the material was.
Yeah, because you want, like we're in comedy, regular like stand up, you kind of the interaction you want is laughing. Mostly, like you need other interaction, right, for that kind of performance.
Yeah. There isn't really much sort of there's not much of. It's definitely not really more. It's more. I speak to a lot of improvisers. They always say it's a writing discipline.
Mm-hmm. Just getting the backstory written first.
Yeah, and it's the performance side of thing. I don't think is as big in comedy as people think it is, unless you understand.
Yeah, I mean you have to deliver things, but I think that you've written it makes it easier. Like if you ever try to give a speech that someone else wrote, it's a little difficult. I mean, like a real just regular speech. I guess if you're acting, that's different. Then you have a play or whatever. Words people have written, that's a whole different thing. But just delivering something dry that someone wrote is and they're not your words and not your cadence, it's probably a lot harder. Or I know it's a lot harder, but.
Yeah, I think the basis of what you do has to be your own. But I think for the moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lot of writing workshops with comedians I know and I get on with.
Yeah.
So I think it will make things easier. There's quite a few jokes or ideas that I'll have where I get into a block and I can't do anything with. So I have to go somewhere else. I can't just keep on.
Yeah. But it just evolves, right? I mean, for me, that's like even my joke about my name now. I don't feel comfortable just telling it off the top like I did because of what's happened recently, right? I'm aware of what's been going on and of Black Lives Matter and of how language is important. And I don't feel like my joke is racist in the sense that I'm being racist, but there is an element of that is irresponsible in a way that could hurt people, because I've had a bad reaction here. I have not had a bad reaction in the States like I've had here, to be honest with you. That was eye-opening. And people were shocked. How could you say that? I had twice now. And I didn't do that many performances, but twice I had people call me out. And I was like, that's so weird. But like, I think maybe because it's racism so overt in the US that like, it was accepted. But now I've seeded it within another joke that I feel better about. And it's easier for me to say it now. And I think it takes a lot of the sting out of it. But I think you just evolve this stuff. And oh, I like that idea. It's not working there. Let me put it here. I don't know. Yeah. It's kind of fun in that way, but.
What, so one thing I hear, what's it called in San Diego? There's this one comedian who's completely awesome, the best comedian in San Diego, but he's never wanted to move out of there. I was speaking to a couple of them, like when I go to New York or LA, they would always mention Russell Hicks and say,
"Oh yeah,
he's very well known from the San Diego circuit as a whole," and he has actually switched to doing more material now. But it's funny. I feel with Russell Hicks, maybe if he'd actually recorded more of his crowd work stuff, he could just build sets of that.
Yeah, I mean, I met him here, and and I saw him, and it was just like, so it looks like he's just having a conversation, like it with people, like it's great. And I mean, he has material, because if you see him over and over, then you'll see like those threads there. But just he leaves so much room. I mean, I don't know him well at all. Like I would know him to say hi, right? But like what I saw when I saw him a few times was like he has this framework or whatever, this material, but then there's so much room in it to just kind of play. Like there's so many threads he can go off on. And I don't know how you do that, because like for me, and I would say I'm still relatively new, and there are definitely probably better writers than me, I would say 100%, but like I have that, and I don't have much room in it. Maybe I can add like ad hoc little stuff in between, and or if someone makes some noise in the audience, I can say something. I've done, but like not the way Russell can just go way off into space and come back, and it's still there, and he's still got like this tie back to what he was doing. There's so much room in it, and if he doesn't finish it, it doesn't seem to be bad. I mean, I've seen that where he didn't get to the end of something that I saw him get to the end of like earlier in the night, and it was fine. For me, I always feel like if I don't hit my punchline, there was nothing there. It's weird. Yeah, he's really great.
Yeah, he's going, I think, maybe 10 years or something daft like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's a while. That's one thing that's hard to remember sometimes too. Like you'll see people be so great, and then it's like, okay, wait, they've been doing that for that many years, you know? So I'll be like, oh God, I suck, whatever. I'm an imposter, something like that, right? The negative stuff. And then I'm like, okay, wait, but like, that's like looking at a 1-year-old and 10-year-old and saying like, oh, the 1-year-old can't do anything. They can't even walk. It's ridiculous. And then a 10-year-old is doing all this stuff. And it's the same thing to me. It's like, once you've been doing something for 10 years, of course you're going to be better at it. I mean, hopefully you're aware that you're not, but some people aren't. Some people aren't better, and they're not aware of it. I mean, you've seen those guys, like, I've seen them in the States where they're like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for years. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah, and we get some of them here. We got John Sharp and Dangerous T.
Oh, you'll name names.
Yeah.
I don't know them anyway, but
Oh.
I don't know who they are. But yeah, you'll see people that I mean, I don't know. It's fine. I mean, if they like what they're doing, it's good for them that they're doing it. But I always hope that I'll improve over time. I think you do because you're working hard. You're doing all the writing. I mean, there's a reason you're doing that. You're not doing it to regress or stay the same.
Well, I mean, the biggest weakness of my act is the writing. The other parts, like in terms of persona and sort of, if you have me on stage and talking to an audience member, I'll probably get something funny within a few minutes or so. But when it comes to the actual jokes and stuff, I'm not so, I haven't figured out how to do it yet. And yeah, in certain things like gong shows, you can't do that.
Right. Yeah, you don't have time to sort yourself or
Yeah.
to warm up or whatever, right? You just have to come in doing it. Have you done that, the gong stuff?
Yeah, I don't do well in them. It's too, and the pressure gets to me as well. But I think I don't know, I haven't figured them out yet, but we'll see what happens.
But you put yourself out there and do it, which is, I think, great. I mean, that's part of it, right? That's a big part of it, is even just getting on stage and doing it. Because there could be someone who's a brilliant writer but will never do that, and then it's like, then what's going on? You know, no one's ever going to know. So it's kind of cool just to get up and try it, and then you know what's working and not working, and you can go from there.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, there won't be many gong shows because I don't know what's going to happen in the comedy. I mean, with that in America and the UK, which are probably the two biggest scenes in the world of comedy, like America and the UK. Mm-hmm. And they're both in situations where maybe half the clubs are going to close down.
Yeah. It's sad. I mean,
so I don't know. There might not be any gong shows.
Yeah. Like I know I had friends. So in California, who the clubs reopened, and they had some stipulations, like you had to be buying food. I think that weeds out some people people hanging out, which is part of the whole open mic thing. In the U.S., it's a little different than here from what I saw. Like here, everything's so scheduled, and so you kind of show up knowing you're going to go on. And in there, I mean, you'd show up and sign up and hope you get up, or they'd pull a name out of a bucket, whatever. And so you could sit around for 4 hours and not get up, which, you know, was sucked, but it's how it was. But then they changed some rules, but now everything's shut back down. And I do wonder, like, how long businesses can survive without any revenue. I mean, it sounds like a dumb thing to say, actually. Like, how long can you survive without money? Probably not very long. And I think that's sad, you know. And I was noticing here, what I like in the UK is just, I mean, I guess because there is more of a collective idea of, you know, collective action, and don't want to use the dirty word of socialism, but I mean, there is a bit of that's not in the States, where people are kind of banding together, like, okay, these are the arts, comedy's part of the arts, make sure it's getting some funding, make sure whatever's happening to the other parts of the arts are happening here. And I do think that comedy isn't seen as an art sometimes, and
no,
it is, you know, and it's doing a very important thing. I mean, I think a lot of us have looked to comedy to get us through things, whether it's our own or whether it's watching a performance or making something that's funny, whatever. It's important. So yeah, it's kind of weird, like, to not have it.
There is a lot of cliques, isn't there? I mean, in San Diego, there must be a place where all the comedians hanged out and did their own thing. Because in the UK, in London, it's the roast battle thing with Angel. That seems to be where they all hang out at the moment.
Is it? Yeah, I saw there's that Angel writing gym and stuff thing. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of not really in the, like, scene, so to speak, like, with people. I mean, I was at, like, one club was my home club, and then I would try to go to other places. I made some good friends, but then I wasn't, like, there were some people who would hit like 3 or 4 clubs a night and stuff, and I didn't have the lifestyle that let me do that. I mean, I guess you could say, well, then you're not passionate enough, and that could be true as well. But, you know, I was working like a regular job from sometimes 6 a.m. till 5 p.m., stuff like that. It was like I couldn't be out till 2 a.m. at a club, right? It just wasn't going to work for my livelihood. But I know there were places like, there's like Ocean Beach and Pacific Beach, those kind of areas, and then they would hang out in like different bars, and, you know, that would have shows and stuff. And It was pretty cool. I mean, because there was like quite a few people were really hustling and putting on their own shows, their own open mics every week, very dedicated. It's pretty cool. And they would all seem to be good friends, which was nice, and different writing groups. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you gig? You said you gig in different parts of the States as well, apart from San Diego.
Yeah, because once I started doing it, I just would, if I'd go on holiday somewhere, I would try to check out either an open mic or get a gig or whatever, depending on how the city was running. So in Austin, I did an open mic and a gig on 2 different trips that I happened to be there. In Portland, that was awesome. That was a fun week because I was visiting some friends, but I ended up getting on 2 gigs. I got offered a third one, but I got laryngitis. So that was really bad because I had to like go on, and I basically had well, I had like a whiskey, but then also a tea, and like sprayed my throat right before I went on, did everything I could to calm it down, and I barely made it through. And an inflection's important. It was hard for me to express myself normally. And so that was brutal because I had 2 shows and I went to them and I did them, but it was really hard to talk. I did Oakland. I tried New York. It was hard. New York was tough. I wasn't there like over dates. It would have been good if I was there on a Tuesday. That would have helped or something. But yeah, I did quite a few. It was fun. It was really cool. And then your friends in different parts. LA I did also. Friends in different parts of the States can see you. It was fun.
And what I noticed in Chicago, so like they're quite polite and they'll watch your set, but in New York they really don't give a shit. Like what your set will be on, they'll be on their phone doing their business.
Mm-hmm.
LA, I don't know, I didn't gig enough, but they were a bit more polite and easygoing. But I felt there was also a bit of I couldn't give a fuck as well.
I feel like depending on the gig, like if you have real audience versus comics only. Real being just non-comics, because I mean, I feel like comics are there just for themselves, and that's all right.
Yes.
I mean, I was pretty good about watching other people's sets because I just felt like I could learn from it possibly, or maybe they're friends, or I want to be friends with them, or whatever. Or when I was hosting an open mic, I would always watch because it's like, I don't know, it just felt polite, I guess, as you say. But in San Diego, there was a lot of like everyone just be talking by them outside or go, just doing whatever on their phone. And but then when you're doing like that was at open mics, it shows it was a little less like that. But yeah, I don't know, I just think that it's important to support each other. You know how much it sucks to be up there with no audience, like just sit and watch them. I mean, unless you're super nervous and you're in your head and you can't, there's those people. And I'm like, right before my set, I won't watch the one right before me usually, depending. I mean, now I might be calmer, but when I was first doing it, like early, I couldn't. I was going to throw up as it was. I couldn't concentrate on them and what I was going to say. Now I know more about how I feel up there, so I don't have that same anxiety. But yeah, people don't care sometimes. Here, I felt like people, if they were in the room, they were engaged, or they would just be out of the room. But at least they weren't in there and unengaged, because that's kind of like rude.
Yeah, it is. What I wanted to get at? Yeah, comic. It's funny sometimes. Where people are. It's. I mean, comedy is a fantastic and interesting world.
Yeah.
One thing it's very much a bit like you could be dying on your you could have someone sort of dying, and I feel sometimes you could have someone actually having a heart attack on stage and just have comics in the room. But very like just, could you get up please?
Like you want them to just get off the stage.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes that's empathy, right? Like in a way you're just like, oh, I know how that feels. And then sometimes you're like, this is awful, can you go? I don't know. I felt both ways. And the latter's not nice. It's not as kind, but sometimes it's just like, okay, you should cut your losses today, my friend, because this is just, you're not going to dig yourself out of this one. I don't know.
I think maybe one thing that could be changed with mics in both London and America is if the host put a bit more effort to engage with the comedians there, make it a bit warmer and nicer, because then it'll be easier for people to perform.
Yeah.
But I feel that each time I've been to a complete open mic, whether it be in the UK or in America, which doesn't get audited,
Yeah.
they just do their stuff and they fuck off and just call your name out like a teacher.
Yeah. That's funny. I have a good friend in San Diego who we started out at the same time, and then he ended up kind of, I mean, he does comedy, but he likes it in the context of hosting, right? So he can, kind of pick up the room if the last person didn't. You have to lift it. I mean, it's part of your responsibility is to, like you said, keep the stage warm. And I think some people are good at that and some aren't. I think if a host is more concerned about getting a laugh for themselves every time they're up there than kind of keeping it moving and keeping the stage, like, I guess getting a laugh for themselves personally versus like getting a laugh to just keep the room up, there's a problem, because sometimes someone will just kill it. You don't need to, as a host, you don't need to do anything other than kind of thank them for killing it and then get the next person on as soon as possible. Yeah. You don't have to like kind of stop the energy and try to restart it again yourself, possibly not do that and then get the next person on. Like, just keep it up. It's there. Yeah, that was awesome. Give them a round of applause again. Now let's bring up the next one, and just boom. But some of them have to like cut the energy off, try to take it back for themselves. And then it's like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but that's how I feel about it. Like, if someone bombs, then lift it up, And
at the start, I think, of a show, someone should do something. I think, like, just to get people warm up. I always think of the MC as a masseuse.
Yeah. Or a fluffer if we're in a different industry, but yeah. Yeah, they should. Yeah, they shouldn't come in and act like they don't have a role in it, like a say in how the night goes. They do. I mean, they don't have a say in what everyone else says, but they could come in and, yeah, because if they're not good, that's another thing, right? If they, like, I've done that before where I was hosting and, I would try to do something topical and new and it would just be awful. And so then you have to do something about it, because you can't just bring the next person up. It's like super cold and you're just like, all right, now you got to fix it. So I would always say something like, this is the worst you're going to see of the night. Now let me bring up some, and try to at least like self-deprecate my way out of it. But yeah, you're right. They can go up there and make it horrible and then just like let someone else clean up their mess. That sucks.
One thing that I would find quite interesting to ask you is, do you have any sort of routines to prepare yourself to go on stage? Because I remember seeing some of them. Like, there's one comic who would talk to himself before he goes on stage. He goes, I'm thinking, what's going on? You possessed? And then others will walk in the corridor, or others will maybe get a drink, or others will try and chat a lot before they go on.
Right.
Or smoke.
Yeah. I would say that I write out my set, not word for word, but I'll just like have a strip of paper and I'll just write the key stuff. So I have that. I try not to refer to it because I just don't like when I have to do that. But if I do, I try not to draw attention to that anyway. Just look at it. That's it. So I'll do that. So I'm comfortable with kind of beats I'm going to hit. Usually when I was driving, I would voice memo my set. Like, I'd say it while I'm driving and then stop it and just see how long it was. But yeah, I just tend to not talk right before, like the set before. I just tend to not talk and maybe look at my list again and wait. I try not to have to drink before because that's not part of my routine. So if I have a drink, I do. If I don't, I don't. I learned actually from Mark Maron, listening to him and stuff, that a lot of the people who they have to have a drink before they go on, then that becomes something, right? Like, they're relying on alcohol on that side.
Yes.
I could see that being a potential problem for me, certainly. And I can see how that is a problem. So I try not to do that whole side of it. Yeah, I'll just have water sometimes just to not choke or something.
Yeah, I do love Mark Maron, and I do feel as well, like, with getting drunk and like depending on crack or these things before you go on is just detrimental long term. It's just, and it's cheating in a way. But I mean, some of the greatest comics have done it.
Yeah, they did. He did an interview with Jim Carrey in the last 2 weeks, or last week, I guess. Right?
Yes.
I don't always keep up with him like well. I try to, but you know, it's long, and it was interesting to hear them talk about Richard Pryor. That was really cool because, you know, Pryor did a lot of drugs and stuff on stage, and, or, well, I don't know on stage, but before going on and stuff. And then when he was clean, he felt like he couldn't be funny anymore. He didn't know he was funny. He didn't have confidence anymore because he had done it all not clean.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that, yeah, it can distort your view. I mean, it can distort your view anyway of what's even funny, you know, I mean, for sure. So, yeah, I think it's a dangerous path. And for some people it works. I think you can learn pretty much a lot about yourself pretty early on in any kind of drinking or drug career, as far as what kind of person you are with that stuff and how dangerous it is for you, you know? Yeah, so I don't want it to be part of my routine.
One of the career signs for me, if someone's taking it, is either they're a bit too energetic. They're a bit too, they move too much. And it's a bit like, I could never do that, what they do. And they're the ones often.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they become unreliable eventually. Yeah, there was a person I was aware of that would just get in these fights or get in arguments or just not show up, or would always have some problem like, oh, I have no transport. I have no, and it's like, there was always something. And at some point it's like, okay, you're clearly, your substance use or abuse, depending on how you look at it, is taking precedent over your comedy and your professionalism and everything else, and probably your personal life. So maybe don't do that. There was a guy that I actually was kind of friends with for a while, and he just came to a point where I just didn't want to be around him, because I was like, you know what, I feel vulnerable in being around you at this point, because you're just like, you know, shit-faced every time you go on stage. So you're not doing your material, you're doing your material in a weird way. Like, we all knew it, because you start to know everyone's material. You know, if you see them for 3 months, you kind of know what they're doing, because everyone's got a cycle where you start doing your set, right, and trying to work on it. And so I would just be like, yeah, that didn't resemble at all your set, you know? So yeah, I saw that happen to one person, and he was new. And so it was really a shame. It was like, you just kind of wasting it. And he ended up getting kicked out of clubs, getting in fights, stuff like that. It's weird. Bad.
Yeah, that's the thing though, isn't it? With a lot of, you have to be careful. That's the thing that I've learned in the lockdown. You have to be careful what you let into your circle, what you let near you, because toxic people are just going to bring you down. They're going to affect you. And they can't help themselves. You just got to go. And yeah, you have to take care of yourself first.
Yeah. And set boundaries. And it takes a lot to become healthy enough in yourself to do that. I mean, it's hard, you know?
Well, the thing is, I think especially if you're a bit younger, like my age and a bit younger than that, we people my age and me, we care too much about whether people like us or not. At the end of the day, your mindset should be thinking, I know who I am, I value myself, and I will decide who I let know me or near me. Yeah,
no, that's true. It's very good too. I mean, and I have that problem, and sometimes, and it takes a lot of understanding your own self-worth to get beyond that, and to realize, okay, maybe I'm not going to be popular with everybody, but I need to be okay with myself, and that's more important. And then you find the other people who, you're okay with yourself, you're good with it, and they'll find those people who like you as you are, not as they, you know, want people around them to be. You're not going to always reflect everyone's values, especially if their values are kind of like, you know, getting drunk and in fights and stuff. Like, maybe you don't want to, you know, and they may get popular for a while and then something will happen.
Yeah, it's but yeah, I mean, I learned it recently. Like, you got a bunch of people I try and impress and get a like, and I do a lot of things, but you end up being disliked either way. So what's the fucking point?
Exactly. Yeah, eventually it's gonna just, yeah, you're right. Eventually it'll just kind of, you'll have the net result of who you click with, and also who's kind of gonna keep progressing, and you'll have the people who aren't. And it doesn't matter how much you've tried to impress certain people. I mean, that's even with like jokes and stuff, like stuff I'll say. I might be way more blue in my personal life than I am on stage. I'll say I am. I think people who know me well know that. But I have to be okay with what I'm projecting on stage.
Hmm.
And I have to feel good about saying it. And so like, if I tell jokes that maybe they'll get a laugh and stuff, but I feel bad about myself after it, then it's not worth saying.
Yeah.
For me, right? It's like, I don't need to fit. Like I was trying to do that thing where I was trying to fit in with a bunch of the people by being more vulgar. And I think vulgarity is funny and I enjoy it. But it's like, what am I going to be vulgar about? And probably not the same things they are. And I don't need, as a woman, it was hard because I'm not, you know, I'm not a hot girl. Right. And so I found I wasn't getting booked like some of them were. And I thought, but I know my materials is funny. Like I know it is. And then I just realized, look, I'm not going to fit into that mold.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And so then let me just be comfortable with me and what I'm saying, what I'm doing. I don't have to talk about how many guys I did or whatever. I could maybe have done the same amount, say, of guys. I don't know, whatever the thing is. I don't need to talk about it on stage because no one wants to hear it anyway. And, you know, but it's hard to like try to fit in, and it doesn't matter how old you are. But I think the younger, there is pressure when you're younger. And I'm sure there's pressure on people who are super hot and have a certain look, and certain expectations come with that. And then people who are whatever, there's certain expectations. So it's finally just meeting your own expectations and not theirs. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think most people, though, they're much rather be more valued for their character and what's in their head than what attributes they possess.
Yeah, well, you think, you know, but there's a whole thing, there's a whole part of it that it doesn't work that way, which is too bad, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, they even talk about now with hiring practices in corporate and resumes, and if you stripped all identifying information off a resume, would some people get interviewed that aren't now? Because there's just these visual things that people see that make them think a certain thing about someone, and then that's what they use to assess them, whether it's true or not about the person. That's what they use. And I think it's the same thing with all that. So I don't know, it's interesting though.
But yeah, it's always going to be, in some ways it's going to be hard, in some ways it's going to be easier for women in entertainment.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of the blokes in it, a lot of the people in it are blokes, and men are more simple than women in terms of their...
Well, and too, I mean, I can say like I've benefited from the whole we need a woman on the bill thing, right? I might not have gotten booked, but they needed a woman. And then you have to accept that in a way. And it's a responsibility though, too. I mean, then it's like, okay, I am now the only woman on the bill. This is what people are looking for. And you have to kind of understand that that's true. I had one guy call it out though. He's like, oh, we had to get a woman, so here's Rabiah. And it was just like,
whoa.
I was like, what? Like, and I killed. And that was like, okay, maybe you just needed someone funny on your bill. That was my response. So I thought they needed a real comic, you know? But it was just like, what, you know, what does that mean? And how am I supposed to feel about that? But you just have to turn it. And they don't know that like he probably thought that was funny, and maybe it was to some people, right? Maybe some dude's like, oh, that's funny, you know? But I wasn't taking anyone else's spot, you know? So it was just kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it comes to and fro. I mean, there are a lot more women in comedy than used to be, and it's increasing more and more, which is a good thing. It's good to have variety in different kinds of people.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just saw in the UK comedy and the American comedy, there are a lot of blokes that are like, "What the hell, love? Let me have a wink at you, and you're gonna get a spot." You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, no, like gross. Like, have you heard my comedy? Do you want me to do that? No.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's just like, I mean, there was a lot of, I don't know, on Facebook what groups you're in and stuff, but like there was a lot that was out of context for me blowing up about Me Too stuff recently in like Ireland and here and stuff. And I don't know about it, right? I know about the experience as a woman anywhere that happening, but I don't know about the stuff here and the people here and the names that were being said and whatever. But it was just like, it's such a universal experience that women have. And then I think for men, it's got to be hard too. Like if you're not like that and you would never consider being like that, it's got to be hard too. I mean, I would say you're probably someone who's like not like that, not going to be like that. And so you're kind of bearing the brunt of it too, though, just by virtue of being a guy, you know?
Yes. Well, it's. I mean, it's a bit. Yeah, sure. You don't need to do stuff like that to get anything. I mean, that's. Yes, it's surely you got more to offer than just.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's. I don't think I'll ever fully understand what it's like for a woman, if I'll be honest. But I think the only time I will understand is if it goes the other way and people start saying, "What then, Marvin? Give us a wink and I'll let you on." Unless I start getting that, I don't think I'm ever going to understand.
Yeah.
I can pretend to understand, but I don't think I will.
I think all you can do is do something like this, like talk about it and get more information and know that and not do it, right? I mean, that's what I think. I think it's the same with anything. I mean, if I look at other situations, I don't have an understanding of what it's like to be another type of person. Whether it's, if I look at, you know, just things right now, like transgender, or if I look at Black Lives Matter, or I look at any of that stuff, I can't possibly know what that experience is like. So I can just learn to be a better ally and learn to speak up when something's wrong, or learn to have conversations or whatever. And that's it. And like, I think you can have a conversation about something without knowing or experiencing it yourself. That's what I would say. So I would say you're doing the right thing there, you know, raising it.
I'm a bit too scared to get involved in any of the stuff that goes on. I just want to just be quiet. And like Simon Kane, oh, for God's sake, I should not have done that. But one of the guys, the Irish comedian, I thought he was a nice bloke because he helped me out when I was in Ireland. So it's a bit, and then with Simon, he was a big sort of, I definitely agree with Bill Burr, 100% I agree with Bill Burr. And I spoke to another female comic about it. The male comedian that pretends to be a feminist, watch out. I mean, I don't like that all sort of feminist stuff. This always sort of comes across as weak men that are effeminate and a bit weak that often do it. It's not like, it's never someone, it comes across a bit fake. It comes across as sort of, oh, you're crying because Gary was rude to you. And they go, ooh.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's almost like they're grooming the women, right? In a way, like trying to, oh no, I get it, and I'm here, and then they go and do something to the woman instead. Like they build the trust up and then turn on them, I guess. I don't know the story of this dude, but I just know that when I've experienced certain things, and I have, and it's just been either someone who I trusted, you know, who had built up trust with me, or it's just been someone who's just gross. I mean, it could be either one. And in comedy, I haven't experienced it. I feel like I've experienced a different side of it where other people have gotten stuff that I haven't because of the guy's interest in getting laid, basically. Yeah. Right? He wasn't interested. But in other situations in work, it's happened to me. But yeah, I think even to be a feminist, I think the men who are feminists are just displaying it in their actions and words and whatever, but they're not telling you they are. It's the whole thing, right? Like, oh, I'm not racist because I have this friend who's Asian. Yes. I have this friend who's Black. So I'm showing you that. Now, the fact that I impersonate all of them and then attribute accents to, you know, all that, like, oh, no, but I have these friends. It's like, that's not how it works. Like, I'm not, like, if I'm a dude, you know, I'm not sexist because I have women friends that I, you know, whatever. I mean, it's just that thing. It's just, come on.
One thing is, though, what's, because there's going to be some instances where it's going to be taken advantage of. Like, women will maybe give a wink at promoters, or they'll do this and they go, ooh, 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 and then say, oh, you did this and did that. But like, it's going to be, how do you not force it where others try and take advantage of it and try and accuse people of doing this and that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's hard because these are all like learned behaviors too, I think, you know? And like that woman who does that, for example, at some point she learned that that was the way to get somewhere. And so she is. Now, if she goes and turns it on the guy and says, well, if she made the decision to do that and then she doesn't like where things went, and then she turns it on him, but she was actually complicit the whole time. I think that's a problem, right? I think versus, but it's hard. I mean, it's just hard when things are esoteric, but I don't think women, for example, are completely absolved of any responsibility in some situations, right? I do think like the Louis thing where those two women went to his hotel for a drink because they were having a chat, and then he just whips it out. I don't feel like that. I feel like we were saying, well, why'd they go to his hotel room? And they shouldn't have done that. They should have known better. Well, now they do know better. But they were talking to someone who they really respected and admired. They were having a conversation about comedy, and there was nowhere else to go. So he's like, come to my room and hang out. And everything up to that point, I mean, if I'm assuming correctly, didn't indicate that this was going to happen. And so then then it's like, oh, well, they shouldn't have gone there. Okay, fine. Then that's what it comes down to. It's like, I've had that happen to me at a hotel. Someone I knew for 10 years. There was never an indication in our friendship that there was anything else going to ever happen between us besides friendship. I have a great view. You want to see? Yeah, that'd be awesome. I heard about this hotel. It's dope. Whatever. I go upstairs and I was never so scared. And I did blame myself. And this was years ago, right? This was about 10 years ago. And so I blamed myself. And I was like, I was stupid. But that wasn't fair. I wasn't stupid. I also didn't know what to do. So I stayed for a while because I didn't know what to do. Now I would know. Now I would know what to do. I would just not be there and whatever. Right. Or punch him, whatever. But at the time I didn't know what to do. And so I can see like, I think there's certain things where it's like easy to blame someone for something happening to them, but it's really like, if you look at it in a different way, I mean, they probably had, with the information they had, this wasn't going to happen, you know? And we also have the benefit now of seeing all these things have happened and what the result is. And hopefully people are talking to their daughters about this and their sons. And because there's been a lot of men that this has happened to as well. But yeah, I think you have to take responsibility if you're playing that card. And then, I mean, at some point, like, yeah, you're responsible. You were playing that card and you got what you wanted out of it. Then you can't just turn it on them. That's not fair either.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, it's not, but when you're not doing that, then there's a big responsibility somewhere else. So yeah, women do stuff too. I know that.
But there isn't going to be much of a scene. There will be a scene, but there won't be much of a scene for people to do that too.
No. Yeah. Like, oh, can I get on your Zoom gig? Like, we'll do a private Zoom chat first or what? Like, I'll throw up like a CD background or something. I don't know what people are doing. Yeah. I mean, that, like, it could be less. There's a lot of like women only shows now, and that's interesting. I've been on one or two, and I don't like men versus women. I don't like that because I think that then I don't know that we should have more of one voice at the expense of another voice. I think that there should be a recognition that having many voices in the room, whatever room it is going to make, you're going to just have a better show, or you're going to have a better outcome in general because you have different viewpoints. So like all of one or all of another or whatever, and pitting them against each other, to me, I don't think is getting us not getting us anywhere, but I don't think it's going to get us ultimately to where we need to be, because you're even limiting the audience and everything at that point too. Like someone who wants to only see this, I don't know. I'm still new, I'd say, but for me, I like to see a variety of things, not just all of one or all of another,
What sort of interesting projects were you going to be thinking of doing, like during a pandemic and like once things get better?
Yeah, I mean, I started building a website. I just haven't gotten it to where I want it. I want to do a podcast. I had a podcast like about 15 years ago. Didn't know about making money doing it, so that's what I'm a IT project manager now. So I want to do a podcast though, kind of focused more around talking to people who are pursuing their dreams or pursuing like either, charity work or art or something. outside, but while still doing their career, or kind of, you know, or maybe they're doing their career, but then they're pursuing other outside interests, something like that. So I just think that a lot of people want more and they don't do it. And I want to encourage everybody to, if you have an interest, go pursue it. You can still do that and live your life. Like, you know, because I think a lot of people end up with regrets. And so, and I tend to just pursue what I want. So I want to do a podcast. I've been writing more, but I want to, you know, start writing like more of a blog. I used to do that. Everything I used to do, I want to do again. And some more video content. I put too much pressure on everything and want it to be perfect. And I kind of want to play around with just putting stuff up and being imperfect. I mean, I like that you're doing this. It's great. I think it's important to have conversations and to just kind of put your work out there. So yeah, just those are my main ones. There's some charity work I want to get involved in. I did in San Diego, and I'm missing that part of my life here. So I'm trying to figure out how to get involved in things in Camden or something too. But yeah.
They do a lot of food banks or something like that. They could.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw there's some kind of like drug and alcohol like center here or something where you can volunteer. So I might do that. I volunteered with an organization in the States, so might do that. But yeah, it's just trying to do these little projects. But I've also just learned that even though we're in a pandemic and we have more time in theory, like we also have to just take care of ourselves. And so sometimes that just means doing nothing for a day and just being okay with that, which is really hard for me, but I'm trying to accept that. So I'm not meeting all these things I wanted to get done by now, but it's okay. You know,
it's hard though, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah, man, it's been crazy. I mean, I just moved here in end of January, and I've basically been in this flat for, 4 months. I ride my bike every day. You see my bike back there. I ride that every single day. That's the one thing I do to get out of the flat. But yeah, it's been hard, and I think it's hard on everybody collectively. And I talk to friends and family in the States. My nephew just got diagnosed with COVID, so now it's finally hitting the family, and it's just kind of like this whole thing is just weird because we know it's a big thing, but then the governments aren't kind of collectively taking it seriously as they should. And they're, like even here, you don't have to wear masks until today, I guess. Like, why? Like, what was going on the last 2 weeks? Like, COVID wasn't going into indoor spaces until today. You know what I mean? Like, should have been before. And then in the States, they have these rules that are all just disjointed depending on what state you live in and what county, and I don't know. So it's hard to sit here and watch all this stuff happening and to have no control over anything other than what I'm personally doing, and not knowing when it'll end exactly. Like gym's open. I don't know if I'm going to go to the gym. I mean, is it worth it? No, it wasn't worth it. I didn't go anyway, but now I'm like, oh, I should go.
That's a bit of material there.
Yeah, but yeah. So I don't know. How about for you? How has it been? I mean, you're at home, so
it's been okay and been good and bad and other things. I like independence. That's what I like, but I don't like at the moment. I don't have any independence because I ain't got any work at the moment. So
right.
That I don't like, but I've been trying to make use of different things. I've been learning a lot, rethinking a lot of different things. The podcast has been good because each time I've been in one, I've learned something. It gives me a lot of time to work on different things, rethink a few things, and maybe I wouldn't have learned the lesson of deciding what I'd let near me if it wasn't for the pandemic. And so I will probably kick quite a few people out my gig when I get back. But
did you just experience people being different than you thought they were? Like once you...
No. It's just that I realized that, I put up with things that I shouldn't have put up with. And I was good to them. I was nice to them, but it's just that they sort of took advantage of that. And if I let them too much near me, they're going to completely screw me over. So
yeah. So set a boundary. That's it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with comedy when the things get better. And one of the questions, and that's it really. I'm interested to see what happens. I've been happy with it as a whole. yeah, just see what happens. I mean, things are getting better, but in the UK, but not in America, and it must be worrying for you.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I just, I don't know. Like, it's just hard because I know I can't go home and visit my family this year. I know that, right? I know I had planned to do a show in May and I was going to a wedding and that all got not, was done. And then I was definitely going to do a couple things at the end of the year because I had already been talking to friends even when I left. Um, yeah. And so all that kind of stuff sucks. And then just seeing even friends, like they can't get on stage and some people were putting everything into comedy, like all their resources and time, and now they have nothing. It's hard. So yeah, it's scary to watch. And then here, I mean, it's a bummer, you know.
What's
Too.
what was it about the UK that made you decide, right, I want to come here?
I have I've always loved London. I mean, I don't know. I've been other parts. I've been to like Teesside and Liverpool, basically, and Bath, whatever. But I've always loved it here. I mean, I always kind of, I guess, fantasized about it when I was a kid, and then I liked it once I was here. I don't know. My company just had the opportunity. They needed someone in my role, um, and asked if I'd be interested in coming over. And it took almost a year for me to get here, though, so it was kind of crazy. But I thought I'd move here about 10 years ago too, just when I was seeing someone, and I thought maybe that was going to go somewhere, and it didn't. And so then I just thought, well, I'll never move to London. And then this came up like 10 years later. And I was like, sure, why not? And so it's kind of cool. I'm doing the same job I did in the States, just with clients that are based in Europe. So yeah. So, and it was just like an opportunity to travel and see places and do things. Um, there's rare times in your life where you're going to have no attachments and you can just get up and move to another country. Or if you have attachments, maybe the right ones that would let you, in my case, none. And so I was able to just get up and go. But so yeah, it was good. I mean, just to see things, travel, which now, of course,
Still good. It's still good. You get to see things in a different way.
yeah. I mean, it's fun. I'm on my bike all the time. And then eventually, I mean, it'll be fine. And I have a visa for a while, so I plan to use it to its full extent.
Yeah, you might as well. You might use it.
Yeah.
Good. It's good to travel. I don't. I would like to live in another country for a bit.
Did you grow up in London, basically?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's better for you to live in another country or another town or something.
I think so. I lived in New York City for almost 5 years. I lived in Dallas for 2 years, which I didn't like. And I lived in California, and now I live here. And I think you learn something in every city. You learn about yourself, and you learn about the place. And yeah, I would definitely encourage anyone to do that, especially the younger you are too. I mean, I lived in New York when I was in my 30s, and I wish I had done it in my 20s. It would have been better suited, but it was probably more survivable in my 30s.
Yeah,
I guess too. And then here, I mean, I think I'm here at the right time for me, probably. I don't know. It's pretty cool.
What would you say is the what is the structure? How does the structure of comedy work in San Diego as opposed to the UK?
The structure, like the getting on stage,
like in terms of progression and all that.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I'm on any track to progress anywhere with it, right? So I don't know. I mean, I would say in the US, from what I've seen, you get open mics, and then I think from what I saw, people try to get on stage every night if they can, maybe one night a week off or something. And they try to get on one or two times, mostly with open mics, but then they try to book shows. They'll do barking where they'll like be out on the street handing out flyers for a club, and then they'll get stage time for that. And I think there it's just like, again, it's like an easier system, in my opinion, where you just show up somewhere, sign up on a list and see when you get to go on. And then you make connections and friends and get on shows. And then I guess eventually what I saw in San Diego is people try to get to LA because that's where you kind of satellite off to other things. The people I knew who were traveling had just been doing it for like 10 years. and then they got like kind of traveling comedian gigs. I think a lot of people try to travel and get like tours, get on tours. I know there's corporate, but I think it's just like putting a lot of work in, and I don't think it happens for people right away. It takes like a while. And then I think the big thing is to get a travel gig where you're on a bill with some bigger comedian. That's what I noticed. Here, I don't really know. I mean, they ask for pros versus not, and it seems like it's just a function of how much time you've spent doing it. Like they'll say, oh, you should have at least 50 gigs under your belt, but they call open mics gigs, which in the States we wouldn't. I didn't consider an open mic a gig ever, but here they call them gigs. And so I think from what I'm noticing here, it's just like, how much time have you been spending doing this? I don't know if they look at how good you are or how whatever, but I see a lot of that. So I don't know though, I guess, other than that.
I think how it works here, normally it will, like you do your open mics, you get a good sort of 10-minute set, and then you go with mirth control, you beat the gong, then you do some bigger spots there, and then you go to Mark or Angel, you hang around there for a while, and then you get some spots, and they could increase you to 10 spots, and then it just goes on from there, really.
Okay. And
then you gig in different clubs in the country, you beat their gong shows, or you do a spot like Glee and the Comedy Store Manchester, and then just go beating gong shows, progressing, they like you, and then you do more and more spots.
Yeah, so it's pretty formulaic on probably for both sides. And then I know I see online like there's people just doing comedy all over, right? Midlands, and then way north, and then in the other countries. And it seems like a lot of people go to Paris or Netherlands or other Europe, like they make connections too and just go to shows in other countries, which is kind of cool. Because in the States, that's not a possible thing to do. It's so big.
It is an interesting thing, because I get quite a few American comedians come to my gig, and it's quite interesting. So many of them come over, and then my friend Juliana's gigging everywhere.
Is she?
She's gigging every place they can find it. No, it's good. It's good to do that. It's easier to get connections now than it was before. Yeah,
because now you're just online, and I think if you just show up, I think a lot of people don't show up. So it's like you just showed up, like you're already okay. They're responsible enough to go to their desk.
Yeah.
Get on a camera.
Yeah, it's easier to do 10 shows a night, probably.
Yeah, because I've seen people do that where they're like, oh, I have to go early, and so they'll just get off the Zoom call, go to their next one. This is the only time I even get ready basically now, like do my hair or anything, because I don't have to. I just work and ride my bike. So it's kind of nice to have comedy at least once a week, just to have a reason to get dressed.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. That's my life normally, though.
Yeah, even to leave, right? Leave your home. Yeah.
One thing I want to ask is what advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't doubt yourself. Just if you want to do something, pursue it. Because I think I spent years doubting myself. I would have started comedy 20 years ago, but I just didn't think I was good enough in general to do that. So yeah, I may not be now, but at least I think I deserve to at least try.
And what is a quote that you would like to live your life by?
That's an interesting one. The one I'll say that I tell people the most, because I think it's been one of the most helpful things I've ever heard, was forgiveness is letting go of the hope that the past could be different. It's informed a lot of how I've been able to move forward from things. It's not trying to change the past. Forgiveness of myself actually has been how I've moved forward through a lot of things. But yeah, I think that's a big one for me that I've shared with a lot of people, because I think a lot of people hold a lot of things from the past that they just don't let go of. And it's like, you can't change it. So just move forward and try to be whatever, a better friend, partner, daughter, sibling, person, whatever it is, you know, and don't hold on to that stuff. It's not going to change. So, yeah.
And what do you think is going to happen in the comedy scene? How do you think it's going to structure? What's going to happen?
Well, I think there are people who want to do comedy, and I think there are people who want to see it. So I think those two basic things are there. I think it's just going to be a matter of, you know, it's out of the control of either of those people, I suppose. So it's just a matter of people continuing to do online. I think online will still stay a relevant platform. I think that there's been a lot of changes even in the last 3 months to how it works. You can see that things are a little more sophisticated and working a little better. It's really a reflection of what we were seeing anyway. Some gigs and shows were really great and ran well, and some didn't. And you're kind of seeing that same thing online. And I think, yeah, I think it'll get back to normal, but I think it's going to be a good year. I don't think it's just going to be like tomorrow or August 1, you know, how August 1 is the day that you can do live performances again. I don't think it'll be normal then. But I think that people will start getting used to what the parameters are and what they're allowed to do. And then you'll have an audience and you'll have people on stage. So I think it's just going to be a little bit of a time till it's like, oh, you have some full house with people breathing on each other. You know, I don't know. Yeah, I think it'll be okay. I think it's going to be different. I think some people are going to stop, but I think some people would stop anyway. But, you know, I think everyone has their arc, their timeline they're on. So my thing is, I just hate how people are suffering. That's what I hate. Like, not even from comedy perspective, but just like they don't have money, or they don't have mental health, or they don't have physical health, or whatever it is. And that's all been exacerbated by this pandemic. You know?
What about comedy clubs? What's going to happen to them?
I mean, I think it's going to be, I don't know what the schemes are to like help them and stuff right now. Like, I'm not very versed in it because I'm still so obsessed with the US half the time and like what's going on there. But I think some won't probably make it. I think the ones that have diversified their business to be also a restaurant and a bar that are viable without comedy, maybe those are okay, right? Because they're able to offset. I think some place that's purely a comedy club, and that might be hard. I don't know if anywhere's like that, but I think there are some that's primarily what they are, and they're usually well known and good for that. But I guess if they didn't diversify, it'd probably be hard to stay in business. I'm sure some will close. I'm sure there'll be campaigns to save some too, but I think it's just going to be a matter of like, if people could survive it or not. I would guess that there's going to be maybe some like wealthy people will buy some. I don't know. I think, you know what I mean? Like, I bet they'll be like, oh, we want to keep that open. We'll buy it and probably change it a little bit, but maybe the comedy club will remain. I don't know. I haven't thought much. I've thought about just like venues in general. Like, I love live music also. And some of my favorite venues, I'm like, are they going to live through this? Cause I would go, like recently I went to the Fillmore in San Francisco, recently meaning last year, and it was amazing. And I'm like, oh God, is that place going to last? Because just because it's a legendary venue doesn't mean it's like got a bunch of money. It might, I don't know how that one is, right? But that's an example. Or Scala over here or whatever, right? There's these places that are kind of like seedy and kind of, you know, they've been lived in. They're like really lived in buildings and lived in venues that I don't know if they'll survive because they might not have a bunch of money. I don't know. It's hard. Even with other businesses too, it's all pretty heavy. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think the one, yeah, as you said, yeah, the ones that haven't diversified are going to struggle. And I think there's going to be a lot of pubs that are going to close down as well.
Mm-hmm. I heard that.
Like pub gigs are going to close down a lot. But the ones that survive are going to do well when it gets better.
Yeah.
Whoever survives is going to rake it in.
Well, what like percent? They said some high percent of pubs will close, right? Like, I don't know, but it
Yes.
was high. Yeah, it's pretty awful. I mean, I haven't gone to a pub yet. Have you?
Yeah, well, I'm going this Wednesday.
You are. Oh yeah, for that. But I thought that gig was like outside or something.
No, this is a different thing. I'm having a
Oh,
drink with a couple of uh, people that help run the shows at the Grove and a few of the audience members. You
oh,
can come
cool.
if you want.
Oh yeah, let me know. Maybe I'll show up.
But yeah, just a few people. We're just gonna have a little social, and yeah, that's it really.
Yeah, but have you gone yet? I haven't gone yet. I mean, I have one like on the corner. I have quite a few around here, and I haven't felt like I'm just like I don't know. I mean, I'll just go sit by myself and have a beer and like not even be able to talk to people. So
I'll do that now and then.
right, let's do that here.
I tried doing that in a few French pubs just so I could learn some French talking to the barmaid or the barman, but it didn't work. They
I
just
love talking to them.
boy.
Yeah, they're cool to talk to, but when they have time. But like now it's just kind of like you have to distance, whatever. I mean, if I was meeting friends, it's totally different. But yeah, so I don't know. And I was at a pub almost every night when I moved here because it was just somewhere to go. I just go to the pub, bring a book, usually talk to one or two people, and hang out, and that'd be it. But now it's like I don't know. So yeah, I think there's gonna be like a lasting effect of this for a while. But then it should. I don't know.
Subside.
Yeah, then like a miracle, it'll disappear. That's what Trump said. That should have been my favorite quote. One day, like a miracle, it'll disappear.
That could be a good bit there. You could say, this virus is going to disappear, and you say, hopefully you will disappear as well, Trump.
I thought I probably post on Facebook something like the miracle would be him disappearing because it would. I mean, that's the thing. I'm like, if he gets elected again, I'm just gonna have to work on my British accent, I think, to blend in.
You do sound a bit like what's his face, Hugh Grant. But no, I think you do.
I I like Hugh Grant. I don't know that I've wanted to sound like him, but that's fine. I'll take it.
Well, I just want to say it's been fun chatting to you. It's been
Thanks so much.
And yeah, hopefully, and I'll speak to you maybe at one of the gigs soon.
Yeah,
or
definitely.
I'll speak to you soon. And take care.
All right, take care. Bye.